So I'm that girl who is open to everyone's journey and experiences. And when someone reaches out to me to say, I've got an experience and I want to share this with you, I would love and always will be open to having these conversations. So, welcome, my friend. Thank you very much for reaching
Yes,
out.
ma'am. Thank you.
Very brave and very strong in your awakening and strength to know that you have survived and you want to share this experience, knowing that if this has happened to you, it can happen to others. And I feel like you're wanting to support them by not even knowing them, but just by expressing your own journey. And so you can acknowledge their journey too, which is so beautiful.
Yes, I think that we can all learn from each other, and by connecting online with people that we don't know, but we just can share such strong and profound experiences with, is so amazing, and it can be so healing.
Absolutely. It's this sense that we can feel each other's awakening and empowerment and agenda. And we can see when people are just thriving and growing and expanding versus other people that say, hold on to their pain, hold on to their trauma, and are convinced nothing ever is going to be anything good than what they've got right now in their, in their perspectives. And so when we do stumble across people that we can easily identify and notice their journey of true integrity and empowerment, this sort of encourages us and inspires us as well, because as we are growing and empowering ourselves, our senses are becoming so much more in tune, and we can recognize quite easily now what agendas other people have and where their steps are, because we've potentially either about to experience it or we have already experienced it. And sharing is caring, and honest growth and honest experiences and lessons and empowerment as gifts for us all. So I will duct tape my mouth and I'll listen to your sharing.
It's fine. It's so fine. I love hearing everything you have to say. I just resonate with you so much, and I feel like you're putting words to my thoughts, and it's always been something I've always struggled with, is trying to put my thoughts into words. And so it's nice being able to hear myself speak. So
Mm.
yeah.
Well, um, uh, fun tips. How I learned how to express myself was just swear consistently for many years, and then then you feel all of that, everything that's going on within you, and then it's kind of like the volcano. It's kind of like, pop it, like the top has come off, and the swear words and the reactions emotionally, like that was a very active phase of my journey in healing. And now I've simmered, because all that pressure that was building up within me to express myself and have the confidence and courage to know what the fuck I'm feeling, and not caring if other people don't get it or not, because I'm trying to understand me. So yeah, my journey has been fun, but I understand. So, swear away, feel comfortable.
Yeah, when I was going through um my first bit of, I guess, triggered trauma, I was having such a hard I've got three children, and I was having such a hard time with them because I was constantly just I was just so angry. Anyways, we were on the way home one day, and I had just had it. I was trying to talk, and they were all jabbering in the back seat, and I was trying to listen to the radio, just trying to keep myself calm and centered and focused, just so I didn't strangle them from the front seat. And I turned my radio up so loud that I couldn't even hear them in the back seat, and I just sang like to the top of my lungs. And they were all back there hollering, turn it down, it's so loud. And I just kept on singing, like to the point where I was screaming. And I got home and I was just laughing. And oh, I can't believe you did that. How could you do that to us? Like, I don't know. But it just felt so good. I felt so much release after doing that. And I learned anytime I was by myself that I could just scream just from the deepest pits of my wherever would come out. I'd feel like, okay, I kind of feel like my mouth is kind of back down some, and I could take a little bit more and a little bit more completely.
Yeah. You will listen to the Spice Girls loud while I sing it, and you will accept it. Well, awesome. And so you're taking your power and you're making yourself be heard.
Yes, I guess that's what it was completely.
And sometimes when we're trying to be the referee and the empowerment provider and the driver for the kids, sometimes we don't want to add to their struggles, but everyone's got their breaking points, and you can feel the tension, and especially when they are unwilling to communicate with compassion and consideration. Children's siblings frustrations can become quite heated, and everyone can feel their energy quite rapidly.
Yes, completely. I feel like I've taught my children how to argue. Like, they're excellent arguers, and I feel like I've just taught them how to do that better.
Brilliant. That is not a bad skill set, because because you're trying to communicate, you're trying to, like, there's stupid arguing which is just like moronic and just a nonsensical, but there's also really clever debating arguing where you actually are convincing, you state your claim, and and you have arguments supporting backup information, like you're training them to think and speak at the same time. I mean, maybe. I'm giving you.
Yeah.
I'm basically saying your children are amazing, at communicating now, and very clever and masterful at it with that arguments.
Yeah, they're angels. but but back to what I was talking about with my experience. That was just sort of journaling and doing shadow work was the very beginning of like this whole journey. And I started the shadow work, I want to say, in 2017. And I just really looked deep within, and I wanted to remember back to my very first memory. And I wanted to just build on that and see what memories I could relate to this and what I could relate to that. Because nothing in my life really made sense. Like, I grew up well, but I also grew up so depressed and angry. And I was actually like a self harmer to the point where I was actually cutting myself. And I was like 14 and 15 at the time. And I could never figure out where this anger, just deep, guttural, just lost, hopeless frustration came from when I couldn't place it in my memory. I kind of had vague memories of what happened to me as a baby. Like, I was young. I mean, I was like 2 and 3 years old, and I kind of just have bits and pieces of that memory. And that's kind of what I held on to try to build off of. And each time I would ask for clarity on that memory, I would just kind of get further and further into the rabbit hole until I started jotting down enough memories to where I could really see a clear picture of what had happened. And it confirmed for me, but I still didn't hear it. So it still wasn't real yet. So I was still looking, I was still digging. Um, and I was able to sit down with my stepmom, and she actually confirmed all these things and that I was remembering. And before she would say something to me, I would cut her off and be like, okay, well, I remember this, I remember that. And kind of one thing led to the other, where I was like, this really did happen. These are not just memories that are false. Like, this really happened to me. This is where this gut pain came from. This is where everything I'm feeling is coming from. And I just felt this wave of like adrenaline and excitement and like the biggest rush I've ever felt. But at that time, I wasn't mad. I wasn't angry. I felt more justified because I feel like everything, like a kaleidoscope, just went and just everything kind of came together. And the memories I was trying to place that we're building on just kind of all stacked together and was like, that's it. That's where it's at. That's why you feel this way. Okay. Well, what the fuck do I do now? You know what I mean? I am my father's angel. I am a daddy's girl. Like, he could do no wrong. Before this, I would take a bullet for him. Like, I would die for him. And to actually think that what he did really happened, where do you go from that? What do you do? Do you tell him? Do you talk to him? How do you? Nobody talks about this. I was never told this. I just remembered it. And so I sat down with my stepmom and I was like, I was mad at her. I was so mad at her. I was so like, for the first week after, it wasn't even that long, for like the first 3 days after realizing this and kind of coming to my truths, I had so much anger and I had so much rage. I was completely unconsolable. I would just have to take off walking and I would just walk and just walk and walk and walk until I just basically just collapsed. And I did that straight for, like, I want to say a week, but it really wasn't that long. And then I uh I had I have great I have a great relationship with my grandmother, and I feel that she can tell me anything. And I was even mad at her for not telling me about this. And I was mad at my stepmom for not telling me this. But I learned after the fact that they couldn't tell me this because it would make it real. Like, they would have to admit themselves. My stepmother would have to admit to herself that she is married to a man that likes to have sex with children. How do you live with that? How do you carry on marriage with that? You know, I mean,
Did,
your
and
whole your
did,
whole life changes at that point.
did you ever have a process where you actually hated him?
Yes. Oh God, for the longest time. And I'm just now beginning to understand that those memories and that process, that part of my life was not meant for me. It was not meant for who I am now. That process, I think that bit of my life at that time was made for him. I think that was made for his journey, not mine. Mm-hmm. And I literally had to die inside before I could live again fully.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. Like, I was so mad at all my close family. I just took off again and I went down in the woods. And like I said, I live in the mountains, and I just took off and I went down into the deepest part of the woods I could find. And I went to a creek bank and I saw his face in the other side of the creek bank. And I just told him everything that I wanted to tell him, all the anger and all the frustration and all the lies and all the bullshit and all the pain and everything that they made me feel growing up. Like, I just let him have it all. I let him have everything. And like, the more I let out, like the more came too. And it was just more and more came. Like, I felt like a failure growing up. I felt like a child molester as an adult, because every time my daughter would come to me and want to love me like a baby would, I felt this memory resonate through me. Like I was like, why do I get this feeling when I'm near children? Like like what the fuck is wrong with me? Like why do I have these weird feelings when I'm around children? And I had to shut that part off of me for a long time. I couldn't even love my own children because of this. And I I let all that go, and I just cried. I just cried and I just cried and I just cried till I couldn't cry anymore. And then I would get back up and I would start walking. And it sounds so corny, but I picked up a bunch of rocks in my hand. And I had so many people in my life that I wanted to apologize to. And I would take a rock and I would think of a memory and I would say, okay, so and so, I'm so sorry I did this to you. I mean, because I was having sexual experiences with children when I was like, I remember my first time, like, want to experiment with another, like one of my friends when I was like 6 or 7 years old. Like I was wanting to show them their bodies and like trying to point all these different things out to them. And that kind of stuck with me as I became a teenager, and I was like want to experience with like my other girlfriends and like my other boyfriends and things like that. And as I got older in my adult mindset, I would think back to that, like, gosh, that why did I do that? I mean, like that's so weird. Like that's just normal people don't do that. And so I thought that there was something wrong with me. I never understood that it was taught to me until I was an adult and could think and understand that like normal kids don't just want to experiment with sex. They have to be taught that, you know?
Yeah. Well,
And so,
and I mean, and
but
from the metaphysical perspective, these life experiences are all about exploring the physicals, emotions, and physically everything that's sort of up to offer. Um, and so, absolutely no judgment here. But from your healing, as you were reflecting, what were you journaling, and what your kind of guides, as you were peeling back the layers of what you could remember and recall as you were trying to understand yourself and forgive yourself for being human and having human experiences? What was the experience with the epiphanies of understanding this?
I felt like a different person. Like when I came up out of those woods and the light hit me, I felt like I had been completely reborn. I felt a feeling in my chest that I never felt before. The only it felt at that time, I could compare it to an emptiness as in giving birth. I mean, it was right in the center of my chest, right between my breasts, and it just felt like the most emptiest, deepest hole that I could ever describe. And like it did, it felt like how you feel after you give birth to a child. For anybody that has ever gave birth to a baby, they know what that blink emptiness can feel like. Like there used to be something there, but there's not there, but it's not there now. And it just felt so weird.
Mm.
But
And so what do you feel like that
like,
is when you reflect back? Do you feel like that was releasing all of the heaviness of the burden of that karma or that life lesson or experience? Or
yeah, I feel like it's my self love. Like
Mhm.
I thought it was an emptiness, but it actually it was like activation of my heart. Like
Mm.
from that point on, I felt self love. I felt love for myself. that I've never felt before. And like when I can feel it now, it just feels like a flutter. It just feels like a tiny vibration. Like, and it's my self-love. That's what it was. Like, I activated love for myself. I
Mm.
felt com- I felt completely new. I felt completely reborn. I felt like I connected to everything around me. It's so weird. And this is the weirdest thing. It was like, I used to be so scared of like bugs and like spiders and like any kind of like insect. I was so scared of it. And like after that experience, like I wasn't scared. Like, I'm not scared to like stick my hand out and let a spider crawl on me. I don't feel that fear. Like, everything became new again. I felt like I had been completely reborn. Like, when I kissed my husband, it felt like for the first time again. I would compare it to a ghost. I feel like a ghost walking around in a new body. Every experience was like the first time again. Like, I ate a Reese cup and it was like the best Reese cup I've ever ate in my life. Like, how can these are so good. Like, everything was brand new. It was like the calmest and the most peaceful feeling I could ever explain. Like, everything was tranquil. Everything was meant to be. Everything was like one. And like, that is what I wanted to explain to you. That ghostly feeling walking around like a new person. What the fuck? What was that? What happened? What was that?
Well, my feeling is that you completed the lessons and the full experiences of recognizing the pain that you'd been carrying around the entire time, to then transmute that into that breaking down, seeing your father and holding him accountable. He didn't have to even be there, but for you to speak your truth and to share everything and purge it out and detox. I feel like that easily could have been one end of your experience, where then in that moment when you fully released, you could then have this gigantic leap forward, as you had no longer carried it anymore. It was like you were trying to, for your entire life, you're so frustrated because you wanted to get that truth. You wanted to understand what was holding and feeling heavy on you. And so as soon as you could identify it and release it emotionally, physically, everything, purged it out. Part of me wants to say it was sort of feels like a walk in situation, but it was like a gigantic leap forward in growth, because you had to feel that level of density of those experiences in its full, complete entirety, for you then to be able to like almost instantly, massively level up to a more natural 3D version, like sense of you. But I feel like you're very profound, uh, very profound energy soul anyway. So don't come into 3D saying, in a karmic experience, sure, I'll be a victim here. But I want to go through the full, complete journey of it in all its challenges, to play the role for everyone. Only advanced souls will say, yeah, I'll be the victim in this, because these things could normally break I don't want to say weaker soul or a newer soul, but a soul that can handle it will say, yeah, I'll totally jump off, you know, I'll be the sacrifice for that volcano. Like, literally, I've had clients where they were rounding up the children and they were going to send one of them up to the hill to jump into a volcano. And my client, in her aggression, said she wanted to go first because she wanted to save all the other children. She said, yeah, I'll do it,
Wow.
knowing it was her death, and being completely fine with it, because that was part of her. The soul knew better. The soul knew it wasn't going to be broken. The soul knew, wow, tick that one off the earth experience, volcano death. um for you do know intuitively that this is part of you being of service for your father, in terms of letting him feel everything he did. And I know so many people want justice and take them to jail for their monstrous crimes. but they're already in their emotional jail because they haven't spoken their truth. They haven't been accountable for their own actions and behaviors, even though they may have completely signed up to be a rapist, but they were supposed to have the full journey of being a rapist, which is often accountability. And, it's about their own personal journey. So many people want to make it better for the victim. Well, the victims also signed up for this as well. The victims on their own journey to make it better for them. And often the two roles, the victim and the, I don't know what you want to call it, the villain, they're still, while they got to experience the crime within themselves, amongst themselves, what do you want to say? It's still their own independent journey, how they heal themselves. And I know that some of the victims will look over at the villain and think, you little fucker, you're looking like you're having the best life ever, and it's we can't see people's pain when they are just living normal lives. And it's something that could be eating him up inside or eating up everyone inside. And I know the victims shut down because they can't express it, because they don't want to even they don't want to think badly of the other person. And so they'll blame themselves and feel terrible about themselves.
And I guess that's what I couldn't accept. I couldn't do that because I could not sit with that because I knew that wasn't me. That was just part of that process of, I got to figure this out. I got to understand this. This is not me. Where is this coming from? Why is this? And yeah, I know he's sitting in his pain. Like I said, I talked to my stepmom. I have forgave her, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. Like I said, I was so mad at her, and didn't talk to her for the longest time. And she wanted to have contact with her grandchildren again. And I wouldn't let her talk to her. They're extensions of me. And if you can't respect me, you're not talking to them. And she actually hopped on a plane, came here, and showed up in my yard. And I walked out my front door. I said, "What the fuck are you doing here? Are you crazy?" And she just broke down crying. And I walked inside and I hollered at my husband. I said, "Can you believe she's out here?" What, And I was like, I wanted to just give her this what for, but I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give her that because I just know she wants to hear it. And he's like, "Fuck that. Tell her what you want to tell her. You tell her and you get it all out there. And just see where it goes." And I did. I came back out there, swinging that door open, and I was just, oh my God, I was so mad at her. And then and she just started crying. And I walked out in the yard to her barefoot and in my house coat. And I just put my hands on both of her shoulders. I said, "Kathy," I was like, "it's okay." I know, because she had to then accept that what happened to me was real. Like, this is real. And she experienced briefly what I felt 3 years prior to that. And I had sympathy for her, and we were able to talk, and we're good now. But my father, he's living in his own misery. I refuse to talk to him. I will not talk to him. But he's just, his body's eating him alive, and he's unhealthy, and he's overweight, and he goes to work and comes home, and that he doesn't do anything in between. He has no family. He's dying, essentially.
Yeah. You know what I feel when I'm tapping into your stepmom is that she was the victim in either this lifetime when she was a child or another lifetime. And she didn't get to speak her truth, and she dismissed it. And she couldn't understand why there was no one supporting her. So I can feel the roles are reversing, where she is now experiencing what it's like to be the adult that dismisses it and not protect the child, when the other lifetime she was the child that was violated. And so she couldn't understand that. And so she had to live the life where she dismissed it and didn't want to explore it. And so when you want to experience all the earth experiences, you want to play all parts of these games. It's not a game, sorry, but you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
you want to play all aspects of the role. So if the soul can truly understand all parts of it, being the victim, being what is it called? You're not the villain, but you're aware of the villain's actions. So you're not the victim, but you are what is it? Compliance? No. A countess? No. She didn't
Yeah,
still.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, that name
Mhm.
where it's, she could sense it. She wanted to dismiss it, because what do? Do you step up and, especially, oh my gosh, very hard, huge, big lessons here for everyone. And,
Yeah.
and it impacts everyone. So well done for you to jump on your healing journey first, to then be able to support her through hers. But fair enough
Yeah.
to distance yourself from her when you were going through your healing. Like, yes, now you can love her and respect her and understand her more, but you had to, as I mean, and this is what people, I had this conversation with this woman today. She's still in that healing journey where she will never forgive the villain, and she is really quite offended that, when I'm channeling, or when other people are channeling, and our collectives are saying at a soul level, we love everyone. You love these lessons, because you just don't know the karmic, drama and the roles and the positions we're playing. So we're kind of clueless. So that to release and heal yourself, you've sort of distanced yourself, and your dad's doing emotional time in his own emotional jail, and that is his journey. He can heal himself, he can forgive himself and grow from this, but he has to look at himself, and you can't do that. Even if you just went to him and said, I forgive you and I love you, or whatever, 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 you know that could be bypassing his own personal experience to feel the full effects of his choices. But even if it was life contracts, it's still his choices in his life contract to experience the full range of it. Now, do we do these things to then punish ourselves forever? I don't think so. I think we're supposed to atone, or whatever the names are for that. But I love that you gave love to her, but gave boundaries at the same time.
Mhm. Yeah, and you're completely right about that. She actually was a victim by um, my grandpa, her stepfather. Her mother married him when my stepmother was 10 or 11, and he would sexually abuse her, like, very often. I mean, he, like, anytime my step grandmother was away, he would get her. And uh like, she said that he did this until she she said she would get so upset and she would get so mad, she would lock herself in the bathroom, and he would be like banging on the door to get to her in the bathroom. And she would she at that time she prayed to God. She said, God, if you can just stop him, like, I'll do anything. And then she quit believing in God because he didn't save her. And eventually, when she confronted my step grandfather about this, that he was like, so what I'm doing is wrong, so you are not okay with this, so this really does hurt you, that he finally did stop. But I mean, he did this to her for years before even acknowledging his own actions.
Do you
And I never knew that about her. I never knew that until kind of we had our conversation, and she was like, I know this. I know how painful this is for you, because I had to live with that, and I had to deal with it and live with it, because her mother and her father, it was her stepfather actually, remained married. And so she had to live with him. And so she's like, I know what it's like to have to live with that, because I had to live with it. and nobody did anything about it. Nobody stopped it. Nobody would fix it. Nobody rescued me. I had to rescue myself, essentially.
So then when she realizes that she's played the other side of the role, being effectively, it feels like she could never understand why her mother chose her second husband over her daughter's wellness and safety. And here she is again. Now she's playing that role. And so now she can understand where her mother is coming from and start healing that relationship. And it doesn't even matter if the mother has died. Your stepmother has gone and, in one life, all the aspects really of it to some degree. And what we can't forgive, what we can't get over, and what we don't know the lessons about. I think this is what kind of confuses people. When we can't accept something or understand something, it'll keep being brought to us in different aspects. I mean, we know friends that date the same type of guy over and over again, and we're like, God, he's just another 2.0 of the last jerk you're hanging out with, but and they just don't recognize that pattern. And so you sort of think there is this obvious patterns, but in that sort of example, with your stepmother, it's the opposite. And so it's not the same cycle, it's the opposite role of the same situation. It's marvelously convoluted. While it's such a taboo conversation, this has to be explored with maturity. And of course, I could get angry with you as well, and pissed off and outraged, and let's go and key, or egg your dad's car or house, the human part of me still wants to like fucking trigger him to fucking identify the shit he's done. But then really none of my business. But also this is his journey. His teams are right there as well. His teams are right there, and who knows what lessons and experiences he's having while he is punishing himself and his body and his earth experience. There could be some really big significant pieces that my arrogant ego could be completely missing. And it's we really don't know anything when we don't factor in and explore all life contracts from what our guides would be saying to us about.
It's crazy, isn't it? Like how full circle it really kind of became.
Yeah, it's kind of like we're an upside down land, right? Like we want to forever be fucked off about the villains and the monsters and those people that run, like we want to be like, we want to have our favorite things to be fucked off about and pissed off about with other people, right? Like we love to have these things to just sort of make us feel good, that we're judging others and we're using our moral compasses. But I think that distracts us really, because it's very much a human thing. Sorry, I'm just having to cough because I'm still going through an upgrade.
You're fine.
Sorry, froggy throat. So it's frustrating as a human because we want to have all those reactions, and we have to have those reactions to feel it, to heal it. But then when it's kind of done and dusted and you're observing that, I think people, oh, she's such a cold bitch. She doesn't cry over dead children or animals anymore. And I'm like, oh, I totally could. In an instant, I totally could bawl my eyes out. But is that going to help me? Is that going to impact my high frequency vibrations, which I actually have to be responsible for, because this is what we're here for. We're here to,
yes, completely.
It's indulgent to be a victim, or, when of course there's truth in being victims. And it's sort of like, I see some people though are a bit scared to heal because, well, what's next for them? They got so much attention when they were the victim and living with an abuser and going to all these therapists who were just so sad for us when we told them our pain and trauma, blah 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 blah. But there's no signs that they actually want to heal and empower themselves and grow. It's so hard because We want to emotionally support everyone, but are we empowering them or disempowering them? What are people really seeking? And again, this comes to like when we sense into our intuition. Are they truly trying to empower themselves to grow, or are they just wanting attention because they haven't fully healed and empowered themselves through this?
I think that's kind of where the question comes in now. Like, so I'm not ready to forgive him, but the only sense I could make of it is that this was, like you just said, like this was for him to experience. These are his. That's so crazy. Like I just got cold chills. Like this was for him to experience. This wasn't that part of my life as a baby was not for me. Those memories did not serve me to become who I am now. They were to put puzzle pieces on everybody else's journey.
Mm.
Like, and that's kind of like my end game. Like I feel like my book is closed now. Like that's it.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I don't need to write him. I don't need to ask anything from him. I just need to, the book is closed now. It's
Yeah,
so crazy.
I think absolutely. And, that's huge because, what he did to you should feel like it's unforgivable and we should hate him and be angry with him and outraged. But even those emotions can't fix what happened or change what happened. I think you could heal and forgive him if he actually, you don't want an apology. You want a fucking confession. You want
That's it.
him
Yep.
to confess. And it's not because you want him to throw him in jail or castrate him or whatever, whatever, whatever. You want accountability. You want, because the worst thing is that, we've all been apologized to appallingly, like, oh yeah, sorry that time that I did that thing. We should just like, leave it in the past and let's just get over it. I'm like, what thing? Like fucking
Yeah.
confess. And this is when they truly, 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 honestly, and fully, sincerely sorry because they will be accountable and confess and say everything. And it will be raw and triggering and painful. But if you are truly, 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 truly sorry, it's not the fucking word sorry that's going to acknowledge that. It's the confession.
Yeah.
And I think lots of people don't realize that. And so when they sort of think, oh, maybe I should just apologize because I want, to see my grandkids or something, 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 an apology is a band-aid. A confession is true healing because you have to confess to feel it to then heal it. And you want him, ultimately, I know you do want him to confess and to heal himself and to forgive himself. So, yeah, and move on and be, healthy and happy
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the worst thing is that's actually traumatizing him and tormenting him is that he fucked everything over. He's got
Yes.
beautiful grandkids, he's got, a beautiful child. He could have a real good, retirement life where he is happy, like things like Christmases, any fucking happy movie, anything, anything and everything which represents happy families. And it's everywhere, it's marketed to shit every fucking where. And this is going to be
Yeah.
triggering him and he will never forget his choices and his um and his actions. And he can't blame anyone. He could probably try to, but that's part of the journey. When you're blaming others, that's, a huge sign you haven't, healed or been wanting to be responsible and stuff. So, but, I love that you're not trying to save him either, because sometimes I feel some spiritually mature people are so advanced and so accepting, they try to rush in to save the villain, and it doesn't help them on their full journey because they've got to break down themselves. They've got to get to that point where they're just so stuck and that they're so bogged down that they break, confess. And it's not necessarily, and normally is, nor is it the case where someone will confess to the actual victim, it's actually when they start confessing to just themselves. That's when they can start healing. But when they haven't even started to be honest with themselves, they're not, anywhere near the journey of true healing. So you are perfect. You don't need to do anything regarding him, and you know that. And so
Yeah.
I hope when you hear them in sessions when they say, love everyone, accept everyone, blah, 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 blah. I hope that doesn't trigger you, because you're loving him by allowing him to empower himself whenever he fucking wants. That's up to him. We can send him love and hope that he will realize that this is time for him to heal. But so many people, dismiss and distract themselves from their inner work. And we can just ask the teams and all collectives to be able to keep pushing people with massive epiphanies to notice and recognize what's holding them back. It's embarrassing to admit we've done some fucked up stuff here. Everyone has. Everyone has. That's the truth. Now, what are we going to do with it to empower ourselves, to forgive ourselves, and to forgive others?
Yep. Because, like, before kind of everything came to a head, whenever, like I said, whenever I was able to, before kind of this all went down, whenever I was able to sit with my stepmom and kind of ask her these questions, I was kind of hinting around everything. And he was actually this was a conversation in the car where kind of I had that kaleidoscope feeling and everything came to, like, he was driving, he was sitting next to me. like I was talking to my stepmom in the back seat. I was like, hey, let's talk about this, hey, let's talk about that. And just I could hear him start to breathe heavier. And like the more I would talk about it and the more I would like try to get some information without saying it, like he just like he would start coughing and like I could just feel him just like freaking out inside. And whenever we got back to my house, like I knew like in my heart like what was going on, but at the same time I didn't want to give it away because I wanted to hold that power of knowing, but him not fully knowing that I know, because maybe he thinks that I don't remember, but he doesn't want to ask, because if he asked, it would be confessing. So his words to me before he left to go back home was, just let this go. Don't make anything more of this. This happened over 30 years ago. Nobody, this isn't even a thing anymore. Just don't tell nobody. Don't just let it go. Just let it go, Krista. And I, like he was grabbing me on my shoulders when he was telling me that in the yard. And I just looked him in the eyes and I took my hands and I patted him on his shoulders and I was like, oh God, Dad. I said, Daddy, I love you. I said, it's fine. It's okay. This is, like, I love you. Just don't worry about it. Like, I just completely reassured him, brushed it off, like everything was fine, told him that I loved him, patted him on his head. And like, I was like, let's get a few pictures before you leave. Like, that was my power. Like, I took my power back from him and he shrunk to an ant. And that was the last conversation I had with him. That was it. Was him telling me, this is a family secret. Don't talk about this. Don't mention this. It's done with. It's over with. Like, yep, Daddy, I love you. I love you. Okay. That was it. That's the last conversation I had with him. That's honest.
I mean, you're so much more stronger than I think most people would be. That was perfect. You had class and integrity, and you still, you did. I mean, that would have taken so much strength. And I think, I mean, don't know what the words are to say, but your kindness still shine through. You're still kind of such a kind person, and this must be such an extra challenge for him, knowing what he did to such a kind soul. And, it's going to be easier when we remember all of the lessons and purposes for everything. And I know it's all significant, but geez, it seems with physical lives as well, there's so much drama about the physical body, and it's sort of not a coincidence, I guess, because it's so personal, the physical body, there's so many triggering new experiences to have with it, the novelty factor and all the dramas that go with it.
Yeah.
The hardest thing I'm noticing still, and I don't know whether this is a cultural thing or what it is. No, it can't be cultural, sorry. Is it's men. Lots of my male clients have had experiences where they were curious with their friends, and then not everything was always consensual. And I feel like we've all been violated physically one way or another. And it's not a fantastic story that people want to talk about, because the worst thing is we share and people don't believe us, so we keep it quite close to ourselves. I'm going to have to cough again, sorry.
That's okay, you're fine.
Sorry. And when sex is such a taboo subject anyway, and when we have these vague thoughts and memories and questions about certain things that have happened in our lives, it's not one for the faint-hearted to dive into, because it's just too gigantic. And these sessions, I think, can scare people, because what if the subconscious does confirm that they were raped by their brother or their brother's friend, and they're a male, and what does that mean? And I'm really fortunate, because I think the people that listen to these sessions get a sense that I don't judge, and that I want to find their truth for them. And sometimes they still know it's quite confronting when they do the sessions, because they just don't know if they want all that truth. Like, yeah, I want to know how awesome I am and how empowering I am, and if I'm going to the new earth and what I'm going to do on the new earth. That's all pretty exciting stuff, and it's wonderful. But quite a few people, I feel, do delay channeling their own teams, because what if they get the information that is confirming their worst fears?
Yeah.
It's so brave doing inner work and shadow work, and understanding the significances of things. But I kind of feel like it's since it's already happened, pulling off that band-aid and finding the truth so you can know how to heal from it is important, because we've got all these emotional and physical traumas and scabs, energetically within us, that are holding us back. It's big to want to do a deep cleanse.
Yeah, definitely. It has to happen. Like, I don't feel like you can move forward without it. You have to do it. You have to do it. You have to. There's no way around it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And people want to avoid the hard emotions or the dense emotions or the things that trigger them. We love to avoid that. And I think, this is not the lifetime for avoidance.
No, not
of
no.
of anything, and we're supposed to empower each other and love each other. Truly, we are. And when I hear sort of people saying, "Oh, they can't stand this coworker or this family member," I sort of say, "Well, what happened?" Like, "Oh, they fucking voted for a Muppet," and I'm like, "And what else happened?" Like,
Yeah.
you're trying to slay someone because of one thing, or they don't like the color pink, or their favorite ice cream flavor is not mine. Like, I'm not trying to belittle people, but really look at why we're treating other people like shit. Like, is it just because they're not a Spice Girl fan, or is it because they are aggressively abusive and unwilling to heal themselves, and so they're just wanting to trigger and abuse others just for their sheer entertainment. Yeah, those people can fuck off. Like, and
Yeah.
that we can't even do anything to empower those people to heal themselves at this point. We can love them and say good luck, see you on the flip side, but those other
Yeah.
people that are still trying to find themselves, and it's usually it's the ones that we have life contracts with. So when we're not in their lives, it stings and it hurts and we feel a lack. Even though we're quite comfortable of avoiding them and all this sort of stuff, intuitively we know we should be better and kinder to them and make effort and all that sort of stuff, because we are supposed to be mature with our spirituality and love all. And but it is very challenging to keep high frequency vibrational while being emotionally abused about 27 years ago when we ran with scissors. Like, people who are not healed hold on to the past as weapons. And so moving forward and recognizing and identifying who we are now and how we are living now is quite profound.
Yes, ma'am.
Fun times.
Yes. Yes, it is. I think going forward, um, becomes all about perspective. I think you have to have clear perspective of everything before you can make clear judgments. And I think that's where growing comes in. I mean, like, it's so easy to make a judgment call on somebody, even with your own family, even with my own husband.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah,
that's how I like kept things going, like for me and for betterment of my, even with my kids. Like, I try to understand every possible perspective and aspect I can before like I do anything. And that is, it's hard, because it's so easy to just become like judgmental. But
yeah. Well,
I,
I mean, we judge the humanness out of them, don't we? Like, we judge the
yeah,
human.
yeah,
But I mean, we need to start looking at each other as essences of God or essences of source that are just having these human experiences. And human is so, it's a potluck smorgasbord, a mixed bag. And yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. I do want to say, though, I have to say that what you experienced and how you grew and how you were a parent is extremely important, because your children needed extra protection and senses, and they needed to know that their mother was going to be protecting them and having more sort of insight into things that just were, physically unsafe. And so I feel like, again, it wasn't just your duty and service to, your father and stepmother and all the other people. I mean, obviously our children choose us for, significant reasons, but I feel like this also is layered and has made an impact with you and your children as well, where you are more aware, even if you didn't consciously know, but you're very assertive and intuitive to your children's experiences.
no, definitely, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
It changes everything. I mean, if my, like, it does, it just does. It makes me so much closer with them too. And I can be happy now, and I've never been able to be a happy parent. Like, I have a glow now, and just, I was never able to have that before. I always felt, I guess that's the big thing, is I always felt out of place. No matter where I went, I always felt out of place. Like, I always felt people were looking at me and people were staring at me and like thinking weird shit about me. But it's like, now I am the light now. I feel like I make eye contact with people when I tell them thank you, and when they say, all right, have a good day, and here's your change you want to receive. And it's like, you look back in their eyes. No, thank you, but have a good day anyways. Um, just everything changes when you kind of,
When you heal.
yeah,
Yeah.
completely. That's it.
Yeah.
Everything changes. Your relationship changes. You change. Um, everything changes.
Mm.
You can enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the reason why many of us have chosen to have harder childhood experiences to give us all of those opportunities to learn and grow from at the get-go. And, it sort of seems like the more of, I don't like saying advanced souls, but you know what I mean. The more advanced souls want to get those lessons fast and hard, whereas sort of like the newer souls, the softer souls, oh, that's so horrible labels, but they would not cope with that. And so they had the more loving, supportive family experiences to empower them. And then, sort of, when they had that foundation of love and support, that's usually when their life sort of turns to, challenging experiences.
Yep.
It's all significant. And so you're still journaling. I did notice when you were messaging me how fantastically articulate you were with your writing. Very impressive.
So,
Very,
yeah.
very obvious, very impressive. And so are you still, I think you are now beyond, well, you still are automatic writing, but what is the information you've been getting lately that you want to inspire others with?
Just being able to sit with my womanhood and be happy in a woman's body and love my image and be happy in my sexuality and be confident in my sexuality and just being open and being aware. I don't know. It's just, I don't know.
Full empowerment of self feels
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's it completely.
It
I
feel,
feel empowered. Yeah.
and when you feel empowered, it's this contentness, this like inner peaceness, just this happiness, this balance and stability within.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Well, I'm looking forward to chatting more, and I will finish this recording. But thank you so much for sharing. Very
Yes,
empowering,
ma'am.
very insightful to know that you can survive this experiences. All experiences can are always survivable, even if the body doesn't survive. The soul does, and that's fantastic, right? So well, thank you so much for sharing. It's powerful. It is really powerful. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm so glad that I was brought to you and had the courage to do this with you because I know somebody else out there has experienced this and maybe this can shed some light on it to where they can begin their their process. God's be with them. They're gonna need them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sucks when we're going through the experiences of to be able to have the opportunity for those lessons. It's awful when you just don't think I'm never going to fucking get out of this. There's nothing good that's going to come. That's when you're in the thick of it all, and that's
Yeah.
very overwhelming, and it's not pleasant at all, and you don't even know how you could even get possibly closure or empowerment or fucking smile again ever because it just feels too hard and heavy. And someone's going to listen to this when they're still processing it, when they've suddenly had epiphanies that this was their journey too, but they were too scared, too afraid to explore it, to honor their own experiences, because it isn't pleasant, obviously, but to normalize it with just removing those taboos and to talk about it in all honesty. While we're not trying to dismiss the experiences, we're trying to talk without our emotions. And you had to experience all of the emotions and feel it to heal it to be able to talk to us today. And so thank you so much, honestly. Like, I'll have a big cry later, but right now I'm honoring you and your journey and your braveness and courage to reach out to me to share this, because I know this is going to be identified by, by so many. So everyone who's listening, we love you.
Yes,
This
that's
life,
awesome.
this lifetime has been crazy. And when we look back in our maturity, when we're back being souls, we will understand all of the dynamics and the puzzles of why we were experiencing this, for the impacts for others. So yeah, let's have a holiday life after this, I think.
Yes. My God. Oh gosh, you don't even want to ask how it could get worse. Like how could what oh my God, you just can't sit with that. It's just like I am in the honoring phase now. Like this is my chariot ride, like I continue to love and continue to share light and continue to, you know, share powerful messages that I feel, and like just like I wouldn't like I like you asked where I was being guided to. Like I'm being guided to the school system. Like I've been invited to become a substitute teacher and do different things with my children's school because I'm there a lot. And so um I feel like that's where my next like phase comes in, is getting like being seriously of service and getting into my community and helping and seeing and shedding light and love into other children, because you can sense them, you can see the quiet ones, you can see the ones that are scared and ones that don't feel love and ones that feel afraid, and those are the ones that I want to like really smile at and give pats on the backs and be like, listen, you're cool, I love your shoes, like your hair looks great today, like I want to get in there and I want to go to work and I want to do that.
Mm,
I'm ready to do that.
yeah,
That's my
powerful.
next phase.
Yeah, because energetically you can see the scars that they're not willing to discuss.
Yeah.
And so, you can feel it because you've healed. You're so intuitive now because that pain is not blocking you anymore to try and get you to focus and look at it. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, you are such a gift. Oh my gosh, you really are. And
Gosh.
it's so significantly important, and your ripple out effect of just love and empowerment, you can see it. You can see how those shy kids instantly warm to you and start trusting you immediately. And people
Mm.
just need to have one person they can trust in their world to feel fucking safe. And
I
this will,
kind of like completely,
yeah,
completely.
yeah, yeah, you're one person. And when you don't have that one person in yourself, little children or even adults need at least one other person, to be able to just trust. And I mean, that's huge, huge. Anyway, okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I love this. I love this so much.